receptions, and it was reported that his relationship with the management began to erode when they drafted quarterback Jalen Hurts in the second round. And then the relationship became fully damaged after he lost his starting job to the rookie. For the Eagles, this gives them an opportunity to rebuild, and for the Colts, the move makes sense in that they get to fill their quarterback vacancy after Phillip Rivers announced his retirement earlier this offseason. And the price of the 2 draft picks, which are not guaranteed first rounders, was not much to pay compared to the price of elite quarterbacks these days. Look at Matthew Stafford, for example. They have a strong roster surrounding Wentz for a team that went 11-5, and they put up a competitive game against one of the AFC favorites in the playoffs, the Buffalo Bills. The biggest question will be, can the Colts help the 28-year-old reach his MVP level again? That's all for now. Back to you, Ken.
Appreciate it, sir. And now you're caught up with some updates from the world of sports. Don't go anywhere, because after the break, we're talking basketball. We'll be right back.
Events happen around us all the time, in our community, in our country, around the world. Events that affect people, move communities, or simply inspire us. Interesting events that people need to know. In these interesting times, we continue to be a competent partner in delivering news about these events. Fast, accurate, balanced, eagle news, because we live in interesting times.
Nakuha ko na yung travel pass natin. Makakauwi na tayo sa Manila.
Tayo ng Manila.
Kailangan punta ka na agad sa Manila para mapagplanuhan na natin. Pili tayo ng venue, caterer, gagawa pa tayo ng guest list, kakausap tayo ng wedding planner. Pagkadating natin sa Manila, bibili tayo ng sing-sing. Gusto ko ikaw ang pumili.
Who needs an engagement ring? Kung hawak mo naman yung kamay ko, buong buhay ko.
May problema ba tayo, Miss Reyna? Ayaw mo ba ng design ko?
Wala tayong problema.
Parang hindi ka naman masaya.
You seem so sad. Parang hindi ka bride to be.
Nakaka-stress pag magplano ng mga ganito.
Hindi ka masistress ng ganyan kung mahal mo talaga ang isang tao. Do you really love Ned?
Hindi pa rin malilimot ang unang pag-ibig. Subalit muling susukatin ng tadhana ang kanilang pagmamahalan. At sa mundong waring walang puwang sa kanilang pagmamahalan, sapat kaya ang kanilang dakilang pag-ibig upang makalikha ng daigdig na sadyang para sa kanila lamang? Ang daigdig ko'y ikaw. Tuwing Sabado, 8:08 ng gabi. Dito lamang sa Net 25.
Back to EBC Sports International. I'm your host, Ken Cruz. Last night, the NBA released the names of the All-Star starters along with the 2 captains for the East and West teams. Here's the list. For the West, LeBron James is named the captain. The other 4 are Luka Doncic, Steph Curry, Nikola Jokic, and Kawhi Leonard. For the East, team captain is Kevin Durant. The other starters are Kyrie Irving, Bradley Beal of the Washington DC Wizards.
Yes, sir.
And quick breakdown of how the starters are voted in. So 50% is by the fans, and the other 50% are by current players and media members. Now, let's ask the panel, did they get the starters right? Let's start off with our fair lady, Zarita.
I think in terms of starters, I think they got it right. All those guys are playing on good winning teams. One's like clearly standing out to me. But I think they got it right. Now for the reserves, that's what I'm curious of, because I feel like that is always where hot takes are shown. So in terms of starters, I don't have any concerns with this. Kevin Durant, I'm sure we'll get into this as captain. I completely agree with over Giannis, but we'll get into that a little bit later.
EJ, thoughts?
I disagree with Zarita. Luka Doncic is not playing on a very good team. Dallas is one of the teams that has been struggling in the West. They're finally getting their season turned around, but again, a lot slower start than a lot of people anticipated, because Luka Doncic is supposed to be the front runner for MVP this year. But I don't think that he deserved a starting position over someone like a Donovan Mitchell or a Damian Lillard, who's been balling out, and especially since the Jazz have the #1 record in the entire league, and the best player on the best team, I think, deserves a starting position. But I have to shout out my main man, real deal Bradley Beal. Got snubbed last year, was the only player in NBA history to average more than 28 points and still get snubbed from an all-star spot.
Did you memorize that stat?
Yeah.
Hey,
you don't forget stuff like that, man.
This is the one and only time that EJ is able to gloat. So please continue. Go ahead.
That's right. That's right. He got snubbed last year, but this year the people made their voices heard. They voted. I voted like a million times, but he made it, and I think he definitely deserves it. Leads the league in scoring, and he's made a statement for himself. And just like Zarita, I'm definitely eager to figure out who the reserves are. But again, I think Donovan Mitchell or Damian Lillard should have been in the starting position. I also think Trae Young and Jason Tatum and Zach LaVine both have really great individual stats right now. So I think they also deserve a spot in the All-Star reserves.
Yeah, congratulations to the Wizards. I mean, I know when you all those games, it's like vote your guy in, Bradley Beal, and then also Westbrook, probably not, and then Bertans, and I was definitely not Bertans.
Definitely not. Hey, but he got 35. He got 35, 9 threes last game. So, hey, if he could keep it up, that would be great for the Wizards.
You know what's funny is that
how many accounts did you have? Sorry, Ken. How many accounts did you have to vote Bradley Beal 14,000 times a day?
Hey, man, I only have one account. I just retweet.
No, EJ learned from the best, Kevin Durant. Just kidding. Well, let's stick with you, Albert. What are your thoughts on this?
I'm gonna have to agree with EJ on this one. Luka, although he's supposed to have a really good year, the numbers aren't showing it, and the team isn't really. They're not even 500 yet. I really do think that Damian Lillard should have taken that starting spot. And also, too, he makes a good point with regards to Donovan Mitchell. You do have to have that representation with, the Utah Jazz are absolutely on fire, and I'm sure we're going to talk about that later. You have to have someone that represents that team. So Donovan Mitchell and Dame Lillard are my two snubs over Luka Doncic here.
Yeah, and then close us out with this, Aiden. I mean, what are your thoughts on these starters?
I have no beef with who's actually going to be participating in the game. If you were to think about who are the actual 10 best players playing this season, I wouldn't agree with Luka Doncic as that pick. You got to have Damian Lillard, who's having an MVP type season. He's leading the Blazers, who's basically just a bunch of corpses right now with everybody injured, to a potential playoff spot. And I got to say, I don't necessarily agree with the Jazz player being on the team because, not in the starting lineup at least, because they're a boring team. Let's face it, they got eliminated in the first round so many times. Sorry, Utah. The Jazz are a boring team. They play really good defense. That's cool, but who's the player that we all want to watch? It's just pretty much Donovan Mitchell. Mike Conley, he's a little boring. That's why he's never an all-star. Rudy Gobert is just a defender. Sorry, Jazz fans.
Ooh, even 2020 the other day too, right? I mean, let's stay with you, Aiden. As far as, we're probably going to have this as a topic in next week. But after they announce who the rest of the squad is, but let's say you get to pick a first-time All-Star for this year. Who are you vouching for?
A first-time All-Star? Shoot, I don't even know who was an All-Star last year.
A couple of Julius
in the
Randle.
West or in the East?
Either one. Give me a first-time All-Star, someone that's killing it this year. I think Zach LaVine hasn't been an All-Star yet, right?
Yeah, I'll give you that one, and maybe Fred VanVleet from the Raptors. He's been the most consistent player, and they're in position. He's in. Oh, sorry, another one, Julius Randle. That's another guy.
Okay, I mean, like, let's stay with this. Let's stay with the side topic. Albert, who do you think should be in the All-Star game that hasn't been an All-Star in the past?
Aiden took mine. It's definitely got to be Julius Randle, just in terms of, we're talking about corpses. Look at the New York Knicks, right? I mean, Julius Randle, he's like, every time you look at the stat sheet, he's averaging at least 20 and 10. He's got the Knicks in a playoff position. Like, those two words should not be in the same sentence, right? Like, Knicks and playoffs does not go together. But Julius Randle is carrying this Knicks team, and he should definitely be an All-Star this year. I'd be really surprised if he's not a reserve.
I would also be very surprised. Former Laker, got to give the shout out. And then EJ, I mean, obviously we got Bradley Beal on, but who else? And who else, not including Bertans, would be?
Yeah, no one else from the Wizards. I don't even think Russell Westbrook deserves to be an All-Star, but first-time All-Star, Zach LaVine and Julius Randle definitely need to be on the reserves. Another one, a sneaky one, and Aiden probably will disagree with this, from the Utah Jazz, is Jordan Clarkson. This dude is balling out of his mind right now. He dropped a 40-piece, led them over a win over the Sixers, who's one of the best teams in the NBA right now, and that was solely part of the scoring that Jordan Clarkson is doing. Jazz are on fire. They're not boring to watch, man. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later, but hey, Jordan Clarkson, I think, is definitely deserving of a spot. He's second scoring in Utah. Leads Utah at the number 2 spot in scoring.
Over his own teammate Conley?
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
I mean, I would say so, and got a shout out to Filipino blood, Jordan Clarkson. Guy is playing an absolute animal right now. Let's round it out to Zarita, who's a first-time All-Star that should be playing during the All-Star weekend.
So my picks, the guys have already mentioned for sure. Fred VanVleet, that guy's balling out. Ken, you know this. He's on your fantasy, so you've been watching him. But people who shouldn't be on, but I think will be on. I don't think Buck should get another All-Star. I don't think Chris Middleton is deserving of an All-Star spot. But I'm looking at so many predictions, and he keeps showing up. And just watching him, especially against the Raptors, or watching that team in general, it's crazy how much they've changed, but they're not, like, beyond Giannis, they have nothing. And so I'd be very surprised. Actually, no, I wouldn't be surprised if Chris Middleton becomes an All-Star, but I'd be disappointed for sure.
Let me ask you, like a side question. This is more so like towards the playoffs, and this is like really, really far off. But who do you think is going to be bounced off first in the playoffs? The Bucks or the Celtics? Hot take alert.
Bucks. I think Bucks are finally going to crumble. They're not a playoff team. I think Bud continues to show he can adjust in game. Like, for example, again, back to the Raptors game, you take out Giannis when you're down, it just doesn't make sense how you're coaching your team. And I'm going to be surprised if he has a drop by the end of this.
Well, that's what I was going to ask, Albert. I mean, if the Bucks underperform, let's say they don't get to the finals or even to the second round, do you think there's going to be a coaching change?
I definitely think so. I mean, you can see where the direction is in terms of where the ownership wants this organization to go. They traded a lot of assets for Drew Holiday, and if the coach isn't able to get them to the promised land, then maybe it's not the players and maybe it's the philosophy of the coach. So definitely would be surprised if they get an early exit and Coach Bud still had a job.
This one's a little bit more controversial. EJ, how about if the Celtics underperform in the playoffs? Do you think they will have a new coach?
That I don't think so, because they've proven time and time again when Kyrie left, right? When IT left, they're still able to still hang and those were their number one stars during that time. And Brad Stevens stuck around through all of that. So I don't think that Brad Stevens' job is in jeopardy. I think they're just missing another piece. That's what it is to me.
Well, Adian, they're 14-14 right now, literally 500 team. And this is a team that before the season start, like everyone predicted that they were going to be, potentially a finals contender up there with Brooklyn, right? Even before Harden got there. But, what's Boston's problem right now?
I think Kemba Walker's not playing up to par right now. Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, they've brought it. And they have decent complementary pieces. Like Marcus Smart is out right now, and that's why they've been struggling, I think. He's who anchors their defense most of that time. But because Kemba Walker is just not playing consistently enough, I can see him being a trade piece eventually, and that's how Boston can pretty much improve their roster. That's why, to answer your earlier question, I think they go farther than Milwaukee. And also, I think they do end up turning their season around a little bit if they make that big push with the trade.
Staying with you real quick, do you think Jaylen Brown's an all-star this year?
Absolutely. He's the best player on the team right now over Jason Tatum. Sorry to say.
I agree. This guy's balling out. I mean, even though I hate the Celtics, but you gotta be real sometimes. And this time I'm being real. Other than the fact that they're a 500 team. Now, let's chat about the darker side of the All-Star weekend. With this being a condensed season, no training camps, nor preseason, a good share of players are in and out of the injury list. So including contracting the coronavirus, a couple big names include Anthony Davis, who's out for at least 4 weeks with a calf strain, potentially something with his Achilles too, and Kevin Durant, who's out indefinitely with a hamstring injury. There's a chance that he might not even play for the All-Star game. As we've mentioned before, a lot of the high-profile players have voiced their opinions on the All-Star weekend, and majority are against it. Now, let's ask the panel, should the NBA still push forward with the All-Star weekend in Atlanta, or should they cancel it for the year? Aiden?
Look, I see the players' perspective on why they want to hold off on All-Star weekend. They say they have no energy, but the fan in me says, what's the difference between playing all these regular season games and an All-Star game? The All-Star game is going to be well protected, I'm sure. They're going to have a lot of rules and protocols in place to keep the players and all of the staff safe. And it's going to be a very entertaining product, and they're probably going to get to take home a lot more money than they would if they didn't have the All-Star game. If you think about it, there's first-time All-Stars that have the opportunity to go to an All-Star game, and because guys like LeBron or Giannis who go every year say, no, we shouldn't have it, then they don't get their opportunity to shine. Like, I don't think that's fair to first-time All-Stars. So for me, I say, let's keep the game going. Why not? It's fun. It's entertaining. The All-Star game means a lot to not just fans, but to players as well.
I understand 100%. Zarita, what are your thoughts?
Totally agree with Adian. Plus salary too, right? When these guys get named as All-Stars, there's compensation attached to it as well. One thing about energy and stuff like that, honestly, how hard do you actually play for the All-Star? Because we all watch the All-Star game. These guys barely try, maybe in the last 5 minutes. Another thing too is you got to look at why they're doing this and why they chose Atlanta too, because they're promoting historically Black universities. They're making donations for COVID relief. So there's a bigger picture in all of this, and with All-Star Weekend, there's a lot of community service into it. You don't see it a lot because fans just want to see slam dunk and all those things, but when you see how much community happens for the communities that are hosting this game. So I know the NBA, they're going to do it right in a sense that they'll make sure that the players are safe. So I'm all for it happening, but I also wouldn't mind just having that honorary title of them announcing it, and that's it. You don't have to play, but you were an All-Star this year.
Albert, what are your thoughts on this?
I agree. When everything comes down to the revenue and having that ad revenue and those eyes all on the All-Star game, it's going to generate some income for all these players as well too. like what my wife Zarita said, is that community aspect, that whole NBA cares. You might not see it, but behind the scenes, there's a lot of stuff that goes on. Mind you, with COVID, it might be limited, but in terms of them playing hard, I mean, they're keeping the Kobe format as well too. So they're just going to coast up until they hit that target anyway. So once, they're not going to play hard up until, like she said, the last 5 minutes. So that's my take.
Yeah, EJ, I mean, do you have similar thoughts, or like do you have something on the opposite side?
No, it's crazy. I was surprised that everybody agreed that it should go on, because I definitely thought that I would be the one different, because I think they should, and I don't think they'd plan on having one if they weren't prepared. The commissioner spoke out on it, why they were doing it, and point blank, it's because for the fans. He said that the event is one of the most viewed events around the world, whether it be live or from the highlights of the event. And of course, NBA is a business. Silver said that they're going to take an approach of being able to operate during a pandemic, not to shut down, because anybody could shut down and be closed, right? And cancel the season. Look what they were able to do in Orlando. Some would say that we're able to watch live sports today because of the NBA. They were the ones who, led the way. And they didn't have any cases in the Orlando bubble. Now you're just going to manage 12 players from each conference. I'm pretty sure it's going to be easy to control safety and health protocols between 24 players. They did say, like Zarita mentioned, HBCUs are being something that they're partnering with, right? So they said that roughly 1,500 of those from HBCUs will be invited to view the live event. But other than that, you look at the Super Bowl, way less than the amount of fans in the Super Bowl, right? So while I understand the stance of some of the players, they have been traveling this entire season. So I don't think that they should be complaining about one night.
I mean, those are great takes, guys. Let's take a quick break. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. You're watching EBC Sports International.
Factual.
We have to defeat the virus everywhere.
Timely information. Balanced. Not only in the country, but also abroad.
I'm certain of one thing.
Interviews that people need to know. Watch Agila Pilipinas. A 1-hour newscast of reports coming from regional hubs in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. Know the important updates in Asia in ASEAN in Focus. Track the latest stories in the provinces in Agila Probinsya. Tune into Mata ng Agila, the evening primetime news program of Net25. Balanced and objective, Mata ng Agila covers national and international issues, tackles news on business, health, science, and technology, entertainment, sports and human interest features, and current events. And Eagle News International delivers the latest global reports, impartial, accessible, and up-to-date. It brings to fore EBC's rich international scope and access to valuable information streams.
Well, thank you to Exchange, our health outdoor attack.
Catch these programs on Net25. You can also watch our news programs through eaglenews.ph and Eagle News Facebook page and YouTube channel.
Welcome back to EBC Sports. I'm Ken Cruz. Thanks for sticking with us. Let's chat about the current MVP race in the NBA. Leading the race right now are LeBron James, averaging 26, 8, and 8. Nikola Jokic, 27, 11, and 8.6 assists. Crazy for a center. And Joel Embiid, another center, 29.7 points, who actually scored 50 tonight. So this is going to go up. I'm guessing it's going to be at least 30 points a game, 10.8 rebounds, and 1.2 blocks per game. Who currently has the best narrative? Because we all know that when it comes to MVP voting, it's all about narratives, or resume as the MVP for this season. Albert?
I'm going to go with the guy that you just mentioned, Joel Embiid. Again, dropping a 50 and 17 today. The 76ers are currently top in the East. It feels like it's a different Joel this year. He's not overly excessive on social media. It seems like he's more concentrated on the basketball aspect, and it's definitely showing. So in terms of narrative, you can tell that he's more serious. He's taken, basketball with priority, and I think he's my pick for an NBA MVP currently.
Aiden, thoughts?
I think best narrative is gonna be LeBron, because there's this long period of time where Anthony Davis is out and they're coming off a championship season. He's still recognized as the best player in the league. Like, I hate to say it, I'm not a LeBron fan at all. I'm the opposite of that. But he's got the best narrative going for him, I think, just because he's carried this team so far. I mean, they're a good team with or without Anthony Davis. But still, for him to be a top 2 or 3 seed in the West would be pretty darn impressive if you consider how good the West is. I don't think his numbers are as good as previous seasons or even as good as Nikola Jokic or Joel Embiid, so he doesn't have the number side going for him. But if it's purely based on narrative, I think LeBron takes home the MVP.
Well, how much of that do you think is the fact that it's his 18th season? The guy is 36, right? 36. And the fact that, he even said in his speech when they won, he wants his bleep respect, right? What do you think about that?
He should get his respect. He's 36. He's in the 35K points club. Like, he's just reaching milestone after milestone, and like, before we know it, he's gonna be maybe head and shoulders above Michael Jordan as the greatest of all time. Like, I hate to admit that, because I'm a firm, Michael Jordan is the GOAT believer, and I don't ever want to have to admit that, but every season he's convincing all of us that he is. If he wins two or three more championships, this conversation is over. I'm sorry, Michael Jordan, you're not as good as LeBron. You never had the same career as LeBron, and that's just how it's going to be.
Well, I think a big factor of being a GOAT is longevity, right? As we learned with Tom Brady this last week and a half, right? It's a lot of it as amazing as LeBron as Michael Jordan was. Being 6 for 6 in the finals. At the end of the day, he did take those 2 years off, and in his later career in the Wizards, he didn't really do much compared to LeBron, who's still in the MVP race in his 18th year. Absolutely insane. EJ, what are your thoughts about the MVP race?
Yeah, man. So you mentioned Jokic, and I don't know why he's on there. Denver's just not living up to their standard right now. I don't think. If you look at the new rankings, though, it looks like that Steph Curry and Lillard both took the step over Jokic right now at 3 and 4, and then Jokic at the 5. But yeah, so it all depends. Which way do you want to go? When you say MVP, most valuable player, I imagine taking that player out of the team and seeing how that team performs, right? You compare it to a Damian Lillard, because CJ McCollum left. You could say he's picked up a lot of slack, and the Portland Trailblazers, year after year, everybody underestimates them, and they keep running up the West. But you look at Embiid, dropped 50 today. You take him out, Ben Simmons is still there, but I don't think Ben Simmons is going to be able to lead them to a promising record as they're showing right now. But above all that, it all depends on how LeBron finishes out this season, right? Aiden was talking about he's the front runner, and I agree. I think LeBron James is the front runner, and he was snubbed last year. I think he should have won MVP last year over Giannis. But especially now with AD out, they need to keep winning games. Jazz has been so hot, so I don't know if they're going to be able to take that number 1 spot back without Anthony Davis. But if they do, then it's all for LeBron's for the taking. That MVP is deservedly his after losing his number two guy. So best narrative is got to be, who do you take out? And the Lakers are no one if you take out LeBron James, especially now with Anthony Davis out.
Great point. I love it. I love it in a biased way. Serena, what are your thoughts on the MVP race?
Now that Adian and EJ have talked about LeBron, I am going to agree with them on that. And one thing that I never would admit to is that LeBron might be the GOAT. And I might be slowly coming around the corner to that. But one thing that he can do for sure that will be like, yep, he's the GOAT, is if he stays and plays with Bronny and wins the title. That's like the top. Like, that's guaranteed you're the GOAT if you could do that. But anyways, another guy that I think has a really good storyline is, of course, Kevin Durant. The guy comes back from the injury. You see how impactful he is, because without him, Brooklyn Nets are, I don't know, mediocre, above average. Like, he's averaging 29 points, 7.3 rebounds, 5.3 assists, and shooting 52% from the field. So you want to talk about storyline? Kevin Durant has it all. Unfortunately, with the injuries, how long he's out for is definitely going to impact that. But I would love to see Kevin Durant win MVP.
I like that take. I mean, I'm a huge Kevin Durant fan, but I don't know if you watched the game last night when they destroyed the Lakers and MVP frontrunner LeBron James without Kevin Durant. Kyrie and Harden definitely can hold their own. They added Andre Robertson to help them out in defense. And right now they are looking or going to try to find a way to add Andre Drummond, because they said that they're going to be heavily targeting him now that the Cavaliers have put him up for auction. So look out for them without Kevin Durant. I agree. I think Kevin Durant is the guy that they need. But after they whooped the Lakers last night without him, they're still a scary team.
I mean, and you know, let's the next topic is going to be the Utah Jazz, who are atop of the West. So I mean, the Nets are creeping up to that number one spot. They're currently second place, 19-12, and as you mentioned, they just completely annihilated the Anthony Davis-less Lakers last night. I mean, I feel like they could have missed in the three, and I think that's going to be a common theme for the rest of the year. Is these guys can be potentially one of the best offensive teams ever, right? I mean, when you have three superstars like this, it's a recipe for records, and they've won the last five. Let me ask the panel real quick. I mean, EJ, you had your take. I'll let you jump in if you need to. But Adian, what are your thoughts? I mean, like, are the Nets legit? Like, are they a contender? Like, do you think that they're going to be in the finals?
It could be Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, James Harden, me and you, and they'd still be championship contenders. Like, those three are enough to be championship contenders. I'm sorry to say, like, the East is not that good to overcome them. Maybe Milwaukee does it. Maybe Boston does it. Maybe there's Philadelphia who could overcome them. But like, they got to be the favorite to go to the finals. As far as being the favorite over the Lakers at full strength, I'm not so sure yet. I have to see them guard Anthony Davis. How are they going to guard a big man who has guard-like skills, who can get every rebound on them? I don't think they can. DeAndre Jordan is not the answer. But if they get a guy like Andre Drummond in the buyout market, if they can somehow pull that off, that's a big steal.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, if they get Drummond, I think that's almost a lock. It wouldn't make any sense. I mean, like, Albert, what do you think are the weaknesses of the Nets so far, other than the fact that if one of these guys sits, it's a toss-up?
I think with the Nets, it's just they need games together. Right now, it's like not all three can stay healthy. I think there's a stat where they only have a couple of games where all three of them are playing all at the same time. So I think for them to be, a cohesive unit, which they have to be in the playoffs, they just need a couple of games together. They need everyone healthy. Durant, I'm sure his hamstring is priority. They want to make sure that he's 100% for the playoffs. So as long as they're healthy, I don't see anyone stopping them in the East. The Nets are a force to be reckoned with as long as all those three guys are together and playing as a cohesive unit.
So, East Coast, West Coast, don't look now, but the Utah Jazz have the best record in the league at 24-5. They're on a 9-game winning streak, 19 of 20, right? And are blowing out the competition night after night. Not even close, guys. But, big question, are they legitimate? Can they sustain? Something to remember, they had a 3-1 lead over the Denver Nuggets last playoffs, but eventually lost in Game 7, heartbreaker. Are they past that? EJ?
Yeah, sorry, Adian, but without a doubt, man, these guys are as legit as my sneaker collection, bro. Besides the fact that they're top 5 in both offensive and defensive rating, the Jazz, they're surprisingly deep. They got 6 players this season who are averaging double-digit points. And Gobert is second to bottom of that list. And then top of that, of course, Donovan Mitchell, but their 6th man, Jordan Clarkson, is the number 2 scorer, and he put up, like I said earlier, 40 against the Sixers, and is making his case for 6th man of the year. And then not only that, they got 6 players who are averaging over 38% in three-point percentage. Now we know, especially in this modern-day NBA, we always say defense wins championships. They got that. They are winning games like crazy. I think they're number 4 in offensive rating, and we know that the three-point shot is what's changing the league in this modern-day NBA, and they have that too. 6 guys who are shooting it over 38%, and one of those is not even one of their top 6 scorers. So they're deep. They look good. They're legit, man.
Albert, I know you have an opposite take. Let me hear it.
I mean, like what Adian alluded to earlier in the broadcast, yeah, they're a good team, but they're not fun to watch. They lead the league in 3-point. They lead the league in 3-point usage rate, but it's like, yeah, it's the Jazz. Like, they know that when it comes to the playoffs, that they're not gonna perform. I mean, how many chances does Rudy Gobert have to take in order to finally get to the Western Finals, let alone the second round? It's the regular season, and in a crazy regular season like it is today, where there's COVID and injuries and no preseason, it's like, show me where it really matters, and that's in the playoffs. So I'm not a true believer till I see it.
Zarita, do you think Rudy Gobert is a defensive player of the year this year? Or, are you on board with the Jazz, with how the Jazz are going and potentially continuing to be number 1?
I can see both sides, and I totally agree that show up in the playoffs, then we'll start talking. But to say that they're not a fun team to watch, therefore they're not legit, it's not the right take. Come on, guys. Like, Spurs, I'm sorry, Adian. Spurs, they're the best fundamental team to ever play. But yeah, they're sometimes boring to watch, but no one's going to argue the fact of their legitimacy. So the fact that the Jazz can actually play both ends of the court and they can actually defend a team but still play offensively, why is that not fun to watch? Because they're playing legitimately good basketball. So to say that they're not legit because they're boring, I think is the wrong take. But at the same time, sure, this is the regular season. You guys do this pretty much every season. Come show up, make it past the first round, then we'll start talking about, the legitimacy of Rudy Gobert, how good Donovan Mitchell is first.
I mean, Adian, what do you think brings the Jazz down, if anything does?
First of all, how dare you, May, for calling out my Spurs? You may call them boring, but they win games. They win championships.
Exactly. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Here's my question to you. Do Utah Jazz win championships? No. Utah Jazz do not win championships. They haven't won one in franchise history, so too bad. That doesn't count as an argument. Spurs are not boring because they win. Okay, second of all, the Jazz are just a cute story. I'm sorry, guys. They're a cute story. It's like the Atlanta Hawks in 2015. They had the best record in the league. They have all these guys who are all-stars, but like nobody really believes they're all-stars. Rudy Gay puts up like 13 points a game. So you call that an all-star? Nobody wants to watch you slam dunk a ball. Like you can't do anything other than a two-hand like easy slam. And you need somebody to follow you. Like the All-Star game is supposed to be fun. And that's my only take about the All-Star game. I'm not trying to confuse the Utah Jazz's success with who I want to see in an exciting game at the All-Star. Okay, so let's separate those two takes. Okay, third of all, the Utah Jazz are good. They've proved that time and time again, and they have a legitimate chance to go to the Western Conference Finals. I think they can, no doubt. But can they beat the Lakers? Can they beat maybe like the Clippers? I don't know. We've yet to see it. We've yet to see them even get past the second round with Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert. I don't think they have what it takes as of yet. But if Mike Conley and Jordan Clarkson and Royce O'Neal, who's chipping in somehow, and Joe Ingles, who's rejuvenated his career a little bit, if they continue to play this way, I mean, why not? They have an opportunity to get to Western Conference Finals. That's all I can say. Do they have a high chance? I'm going to say no.
Yeah, well, I mean, last point before we go back to a break, playoffs or when things slow down, and that's what going to be really the big question mark. Are these guys going to be able to slow down their game and stay patient and stay effective? And that's where the Lakers, have been able to prove that they are able to do that. So let's see in the playoffs, guys. We'll be taking a break, and when we return, we'll talk a little bit more NBA and finish off with our question of the week. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
It is time to listen to the youth in a project developed by the Worldwide Fund for Nature Philippines called QC 2030. We will be talking about sustainability that impacts on society, environment, and economy.
Malaki ang parte na magiging maipi-play ng mga small business owners or entrepreneurs para mas ma-develop yung mga ideas na naumpisahan na ng mga kabataan.
Ito pong ginagawa po namin, hindi lang po ito para sa kinabukasan namin, kundi para sa fellow youth po namin at ng mga susunod pa pong generation.
Ms. Amy Belian, Project Manager, Worldwide Fund for Nature Philippines, and Ms. Ila Adige, our City 2030 Student Facilitator, will be joining us in this week's episode of Open for Business.
Sa mga panahong napakahirap humanap ng trabaho at pagkakakitaan, paano pa kaya ang may mga kapansanan?
Wala, hindi po ako natanggap. Sinasabing puno, may mga trabahador na. Ang pangarap ko noon ay maka-experience ng trabaho kahit na mahirap.
Tunghayan natin ang kwento ng pag-asa at paninindigan ng mga kababayan nating DAP o Differently Abled Persons.
Napakarami pong hirap para sa isang DEP na makihalubili sa mga tao. Hindi po kayo katanggap-tanggap, kaya ako po ay nagtiyaga.
Ibabahagi rin namin sa inyo kung paano sila niyakap ng Embrace tungo sa pag-unlad.
Ang Embrace din ay katuwang ng mga DAP sa pagkakaroon ng higit pang maunlad na kasanayan.
Nakatulong po sa akin, ako po ay nakapagtrabaho ng tuloy-tuloy.
Ang una tinuro sa akin ay paggawa ng milk tea.
Sa Embrace Cafe po, talagang ini-embrace natin yung mga differently abled persons. Kung ano po yung benepisyo na dapat maibigay.
Pagmamahal sa pagtatrabaho, nandoon, nararamdaman mo. Kaya mamahalin mo rin sila eh.
Ako po, si Robin Padilla, at ito po ang unlad. Kagapay sa hanap buhay.
Welcome back to EBC Sports International. Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant are some of the most clutch players the NBA has ever had. Something crazy we're seeing this season is that multiple players are consistently clutching out games and giving their teams all these wins. So some big names include Damian Lillard, Steph Curry, and surprisingly, actually, I don't know, it's been a few years now, LeBron James. My question is, who is the most clutch player in the NBA right now? Sarita?
I'm gonna go Dame. No one can argue what Dame can do. Like he dismantled. What was the team Paul George was on? What was that team?
The Thunder. Before
he dismantled that team just because of that one shot. We see him do it time and time again. It just sucks that his team can't actually get any further in the playoffs. But Dame for sure. You can't argue Dame.
EJ?
Yeah, well, it depends which way you want to go with it, right? If we're talking game on the line, who do you give the ball to? Most clutch player. I think you can't argue that it's going to be Kevin Durant because he has the best offensive arsenal. He can shoot it. He could drive it. He's tall and lanky, so I think he would be clutch. Now, if you want to talk about buzzer beaters, who has the most buzzer beaters right now, it'd have to be Damian Lillard. So Dame Dollar is a good choice, but it just depends on which way you want to go. Or if you want to talk about clutch points, how many points you can score within 5 minutes left of the fourth quarter. Last year, it was Chris Paul who led the entire league. Yes, Chris Paul led the entire league in clutch points. And behind him was his predecessor in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in the whole league, right? So, I mean, and Devin Booker, he's had highlights and highlights and highlights of game winners at the buzzer as of recent, throughout his young career. So, I mean, I don't think you could base it off buzzer beaters. To me, if you're talking about clutch, you give a guy a ball and he's going to get you the best look you can get. To me, it's Kevin Durant. Nobody could guard him.
Adian, thoughts? Still there?
Sorry. I got to go Damian Lillard. They call him Dame Time for a reason. You know when it's 3 minutes on the clock or less and the score's within 5 points, you just see this. Dame Time.
Yeah.
Man, he has highlight videos on YouTube, like 5 minutes long of just game winners. Like his highlight package is nuts.
That's because they show every angle of his shot, man.
But he has so many. I'm not talking about just the playoffs. Like all regular season buzzer beaters or game winners. I'm not talking about like all buzzer beaters. I'm talking just game winners. He has a 5 minute highlight reel of just game winners.
Yeah, I mean they're going to start calling it Dame winners now.
You got it. The other thing is, like, LeBron is sneakily a really clutch player. We take for granted how good he is in the clutch because we've seen him like miss free throws in key games or choke in certain spots. I'm talking about like the 2011 Dallas series.
Sure.
That's neither here or there.
That's 10 years ago.
10 years ago, but still, it happened. It's going to be a blemish on his career, even though we're not talking about LeBron right now. Sorry to bring it back to him. Yeah, Dame Time. That's my guy.
And Albert, who's your clutch guy?
I agree with EJ here. Like, if it comes down to buzzer beaters, I think we're all in the same boat. There's a reason why this guy's got a luxury watch deal coming up. It's Dame Dollar. Like, this guy, he's closing out games, buzzer beaters left and right. I feel like every week on Instagram, he's got a highlight package where he's, finishing off another team. But I do agree with the point that in terms of if it's a shot that someone needs to take, KD is one of the most prolific scorers probably ever in the NBA. But you can't argue what Dame's package has and the amount of threes and teams that he's put away just by himself. So I'm going to go with Dame here.
I'm surprised no one said Steph Curry, but that's probably why it probably started when he missed that half-court shot during All-Star weekend.
Well, one point, real quick. The reason why Dame has so many of those buzzer-beating shots is because he can't pull away from games. They're always close. So KD, I mean, and the teams, they're able to pull away from games. That's the only reason why he has so many highlights.
Now, let's finish off. Before we end it, we have the question of the week. Your favorite sports team calls you to name the new mascot. You can't keep the current one. Who's your team's new mascot and why? EJ.
And so ours is the Wizards. I would call the land of Hogwarts, try and get Harry Potter as our mascot, or Hedwig put an owl over there. Name him Hedwig. We're the Wizards, man. We're the Wizards.
All right. Idiot?
I know there's going to be some Raptors talk, so I'm going to switch it over to the Toronto Maple Leafs, who they currently have a polar bear as their mascot. Let's just get ridiculous. Let's have just like a giant maple leaf, who's like a big white maple leaf with a face on it, and it just has hands that can shake kids' hands and stuff and hug kids. That'd be a cool mascot, no?
Yeah,
that'd probably be really scary, but yeah, that's my answer.
Kind of like the Stanford Cardinals, right? The tree. Zarita?
For me, you know what? Give the people what they want and just put Barney. Just put Barney on the Raptors so all jokes can be put aside. Purple dinosaur, whatever. Just get it over with. I'll take Barney.
I thought that was your mascot already. Just kidding. Now 3 games for me.
I'm going to stay on the Toronto train. The Raptors originally were called the Toronto Huskies. They actually had a retro jersey with the Huskies, so it'd be nice to see if they had a Husky involved in their mascot if they couldn't stick with the Raptors.
For me, for the Lakers, it would be the Laker Mambas. Obviously, you know why.
Would it just be snakes?
Yeah, it would be. Yeah.
What would that costume look like?
What is their mascot right now?
They don't have one.
But yeah, so we ran out of time, guys. That's all this week. That's all we have for this week's edition of EBC Sports International. Now I'm breaking up, right? On behalf of everyone on our panel, thanks so much for joining us, and be sure to join us next week. Make sure to visit our websites at eaglenews.net and eaglenewslive.com. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at EagleNewsPH to join the conversation. From Washington, D.C., I'm Ken Cruz. We live in interesting times.